Also tonight, following massive No Kings protests yesterday, President Trump saying on Air Force One, the demonstrators do not represent this country.
I think it's a joke. I looked at the people. They're not representative of this country. And I looked at all the brand new signs paid for, I guess it was paid for by Soros and other radical left lunatics. It looks like it was. We're checking it out. The demonstrations were very small, very ineffective, and the people were whacked out. When you look at those people, those are not representative of the people of our country.
Mr. President, besides San Francisco...
By the way, I'm not a king. I'm not a king. I work my ass off to make our country great.
News Nation's Hannah Brandt live from the White House tonight, breaking down those new remarks from the commander-in-chief. Hannah?
Yeah, Alex, tonight President Trump took a range of questions, as he often does in press gaggles like these ones on his way back here to the White House. But much of the focus in tonight's gaggle was foreign policy issues. The president talked about the fragile ceasefire deal that's now in place between Israel and Hamas. And over the weekend, we know that Israel did fire several deadly strikes into Gaza after Israeli officials claimed that Hamas went after their forces. So that back and forth, that clash seems to put this peace agreement that President Trump himself brokered at risk. But the president was asked about all of this fighting. Here's what he had to say.
We want to make sure that it's going to be very peaceful with Hamas. And as you know, they've been quite rambunctious. They've been doing some shooting, and we think maybe the leadership isn't involved in that. You know, some rebels within. But either way, it's going to be handled properly. It's going to be handled toughly, but properly.
Is the ceasefire still in place?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
So that optimistic message from the president coming as we expect President or Vice President Vance, rather, to visit Israel this week. You can see on your screen also videos of one of those controversial U.S. military strikes on vessels that the administration says are carrying drugs. In tonight's remarks, the president also doubling down on those controversial strikes, saying that they are justified because of those drug operations, allegedly. And just last night, the president of Colombia actually accused the United States of violating its sovereignty and committing murder with one of those strikes, because the leader of Colombia says that one of the strikes killed a fisherman, not a drug smuggler. Now, that accusation prompted some attacks from President Trump, specifically targeting the president of Colombia on his Truth Social. He continued to go after the leader when talking to reporters tonight. Listen.
They are a drug manufacturing machine, Colombia, and we're not going to be part of it. So we're going to drop all money that we're giving to them. It has nothing to do with them stopping drug production. And you look at the fields are loaded up with drugs, and they refine the drugs, and they make tremendous amounts of cocaine, and they send it all over the world, and they destroy families. No, Colombia is out of control, and now they have the worst president they've ever had. He's a lunatic who's got a lot of problems, mental problems.
Also saying he may announce tariffs on Colombia shortly from now. And the war between Russia and Ukraine also coming up as the Trump administration continues trying to negotiate an end to that conflict. President Trump met with Ukrainian leader Zelensky at the White House on Friday. He also talked with Russian President Vladimir Putin in recent days. Tonight, he says he thinks the war should end now, with both sides just keeping the territory they currently have control of. Take a listen.
They should stop right now at the battle lines. Go home, stop killing people, and be done.
What do you think should happen with the Donbas region then?
Let it be cut the way it is. It's cut up right now. I think 78% of the land is already taken by Russia. You leave it the way it is right now. They can negotiate something later on down the line.
That's an idea we previously heard Ukraine object. Obviously, those comments made just a little bit ago, so we haven't yet heard reaction from Ukraine about what he said there. But it wasn't all foreign policy talk tonight. The president also mentioned the ongoing government shutdown, once again blaming Democratic lawmakers. This as we're preparing to go into day 20 of the shutdown tomorrow, with really no deal in sight. And of course, the president, the White House, not backing down on their claim that Democrats shoulder the blame here. Plus, President Trump also talking politics. He went after Democratic mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani, saying it would be a disaster if he was elected mayor of New York. And in another race, he offered support for the Republican governor candidate, Winsome Earl-Sears, saying he thinks that she should win that race. So a lot of ground covered in his remarks tonight, Alex.
Hannah Brandt, thank you very much.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.